Today's episode of Dungeon Crawlers Radio is brought to you by Gamers Inn, your one-stop location for all your gaming needs. Located in Lehigh City, Utah, their fun and friendly staff will be more than happy to answer any of your gaming needs. Just remember, Gamers Inn, it's where adventures begin.
It's time to power up.
Autobots, roll out! Broadcasting live from the DCR studio.
Oh yeah!
The Geek Revolution starts here.
Excellent!
Get ready for the #1 hit geek radio show out there.
Well, it is impressive, isn't it?
Because it's time for Dungeon Crawlers Radio. Let's get ready to rumble!
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
And welcome to another episode of Dungeon Crawlers Radio. This is Bob Defendi. I am your resident pirate because I'm taking over the show again. You might recall that I did this once before when I decided that I really wanted to hear Daniel's take on the history of the show, and nobody was giving it to me when I would listen to the episodes. So
And Weston Scott will be in the side arms making fun of everything, right?
Yeah. Giving us color commentary. Yeah. So I believe Daniel has a big event, a big life event coming up. It's not a wedding or a funeral. It's a different type of life event. Well, it's kind of a birth. It's so.
I'm sure
tell
some
us.
characters will die.
Tell us about what this life event is that I'm about to interview you about.
The life event of birthing a book. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so the book releases June 6th, which is literally around the corner and is probably one of the scariest things and super exciting things that I've been experiencing. You know, it's kind of like when you're going to have your first kid. It's like, all right, this is awesome. I'm going to do all this cool stuff. And then you start thinking about it. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm responsible for this person. And it's kind of the same way. It's like, oh my gosh, do people actually like this? Am I really a good author? Did I just write a bunch of crap and people are just going to ridicule me because they can do that with reviews? So, yeah.
They sure
pre-order.
can.
Go, do it now.
Yeah, there are pre-orders for the ebook. Paperback will be available shortly. Yes.
So when does this episode drop?
So the episode Monday.
Monday.
Yes.
So it's just like a week and a half or so from when this drops that the book will be available. So you guys should be start going out and just getting your pre-order right now.
Yeah. So it will be available 2 weeks from the 23rd.
Get it.
Yeah. So it's really close.
Can they pre-order the paperback yet?
No, but it should be available like next week or very soon.
So it might actually be available by the time they hear
Yes.
this. Yeah. So, but you want the ebook anyway? Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll bet you. I wouldn't be surprised if Daniel makes more money off the ebook. I know that I
do, but
I make twice as much money off of an ebook sale as I do on a paperback sale.
Really? I have a really good contract.
There's
I'm
no
impressed.
overhead for ebooks.
Yeah.
The difference is not a lot, but there definitely is. I get more off the ebooks and the audiobooks than, of course, the physical books.
So get the Kindle version, and
I love the feel of the paper.
Oh, I know. I can't do.
You're gonna be surprised by the audiobooks.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not gonna be as good as you hoped. Audible takes a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they take their chunk, and I get my chunk after that chunk.
Yeah. But no, I make double on ebook as I do on paperback.
Oh, nice.
And I think Immortal Works has comparable contracts to what I have.
Yeah.
So, my second question was going to be how freaked out are you right now? And I think you've answered that.
About my book? I am sitting at probably an 8 or a 9 where every night I sit down and I'm like, oh man, no reviews are coming in. I know the arcs have gone out.
Well,
I suck that bad that no one wants to say anything?
Hold on. They've gone out?
Yes.
Where's ours?
I can't help but feel that certain people on the show who wanted to review it have not had a chance to do
ours?
so.
What?
Don't beat around the bush. I'll just straight up ask, where's ours?
Where's your flash drive? I can give it to you right now.
I will whip it out right here, right now.
Like,
He might be a little
right here.
a little frazzled. I told him I wanted it twice before I got it.
Oh
so.
yeah. No, I really.
It's weekly.
I am fairly nervous because I think it's great, but at the same time, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because no one else has come back and said, well, yes, okay. Jason has said some good things. I did get a cover quote from Dan Wells and Michael Brent and Dave Butler. But, there's some part of me, they're just your friends. They're just saying nice things about it to be nice to you. When I'm pretty sure that's not the case, because I don't think they would put their name on something.
But they want you in the tower, dude.
Self-sabotage is the most spectacular type of sabotage.
I know.
If it means anything, every time I've written anything, Wes has said it's garbage.
Awesome.
And everybody else
I'm not
has
giving
liked
it to Wes
so,
then.
When did I become the bad guy?
I think friends will actually tell you what you want to hear
Okay.
when it comes to writing.
All right. Good to know.
Except for me, apparently.
Well, no.
Yeah. So, and I know a lot of it. I've talked with Jason, and he's like, self-doubt and loathing. Now you're officially an author.
Right.
So yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, not everybody can be handsome and brilliant and hyper-intelligent like me.
Yes.
Right.
I saw where that
Or
was
Brandon
going.
Sanderson, where it just doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Because the boatloads of money just keep rolling in.
Yes, indeed.
Now I'm visualizing a boatload. I'm very grateful that you didn't say buttload.
Yeah, boatload.
Well, it costs extra money to bring it in on a boat when
Yes.
you're in a landlocked state.
Yes.
That is true.
Yeah.
That
Because
is
a
very
boatload
pricey.
would be on a trailer pulled by a truck.
Right,
on the
right.
road.
Train.
Right. They
On
do.
a
They have
train
to do
or
it special. They
airplane.
set it up just for him. Yeah.
It could be that they just do random airdrops. So this fly over and this container just floats
But
down
it's still a boat.
perfectly.
It's still a boat.
Yeah,
when they
it's
drop.
still a boat.
Do it
Yeah.
in an airship,
Yeah.
dude. Like a
It's still
Zeppelin kind of.
Yeah, it's still like a fishing boat that's just full of money and it just lands perfectly in his backyard.
Is that in your contract? For when
Not
you-
mine.
Every Friday at 5 o'clock, you hear this clong. You go look out back, and there's all this boat just like half
No,
in the
Brandon's
ground.
awesome. But
Brandon
yeah,
is awesome.
That
Brandon
would
is awesome.
be amazing if that could ever happen. Scrooge McDuck gets to swim in his coins.
I mean, he's got a sense of
random
humor.
boat with money drop in your backyard. That's awesome.
He put me in a car with people on the way to WorldCon once and said, "Hey, this is Bob. He's going to entertain you for the next 10 to 14 hours," and then left. I was like, "Son of a."
Wow. Well, that works, I guess.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. All right, so your main character now is I've read so to
I want to know more about the book.
to the listeners out there. I'm a super slow reader, and I got
You're
the
fine.
book yesterday. So I've read the prologue in the first chapter. So I've read about Henry, but I know from the cover copy that there's a Rick as well.
Yeah, Rick's his brother.
Now, which is the main character? Is it Henry or Rick?
Well, it kind of bounces back and forth between the
So
two.
kind of they share the duty.
So I kind of go back and forth between both brothers. So Henry, they both have been in the military. Henry's kind of left the military, and that there was an argument. Rick stayed in because he kind of wanted to get out from underneath the shadow of his brother, which is kind of amazing. And so he stayed in and then signed up with a bunch of special missions after that. And Henry just wanted a normal life. So he went back home.
So did you name Henry Morgan after the famous pirate or the rum?
The pirate.
Okay.
Come on, everybody's got a little cap in them.
Yeah, it was the pirate. I love the name, and it just worked.
I mean, he almost took Marguerite. If it wasn't for the Oxford blowing up,
Yeah.
you would have taken that darn city.
Yeah. And I love pirates. Pirates are awesome.
Yeah.
I need to write a pirate book eventually.
Yarr, this chair be high, says I.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pirates ruined one of the names that I was going to name my kid. I was going to name him John, but I realize now John Silver, that's just not going to work anymore. Like, there's no chance that I can ever
Hey,
get
you know what, though? A kid could do a worse nickname than
Oh, is your
Long
last name
John.
Silver?
Yeah, his last name is Silver.
Oh,
His last name is
it's
Silver.
it's not gonna.
So for those stalkers out there.
Hey,
His address is 123.
you could just nickname him Long. Long John Silver. There you
Hey, it
go.
worked for Justin Long.
Oh. Yeah.
Whoa.
But I'm
All right.
So how long ago did you start working on it? what was this process like? I mean, how long was this
So
process?
I wrote the book in 2015, literally in 3 months. I came home from Conduit, which is the last Conduit we had. I was sitting in a panel watching, and James Wymore came up to me and we started talking. And he's like, with all the research you do for panels and the detail you throw in your adventures for D&D, and that's like, you could write a book. I'm like, really? He's like, oh yeah, you could write a book, and I would take it. I'm like, huh, okay. I didn't take him serious. We went to lunch, went through the rest of the day. I drove home, and the thought kept going in my head, what if I could do this? I got home, told my wife, okay, I'm going to do this. James said I could do it. I'm going to try it, give it a shot. Because I've tried several times over the years to write, and I always tried to write an epic fantasy. I get to about chapter 5, and then I turn into self-editing. Death, yeah. I just edit it to,
than I usually do.
to death. And James had said, no, just write it. Write it. Don't stop. Don't edit. Just write. So I went to bed that night thinking, okay, I'll do this, but not really committing to it. Woke up in the middle of the night. The first paragraph came to mind. I had to write it down. I wrote it down on a piece of paper with a pencil, went back to sleep. Woke up the next morning, grabbed my iPad, and just started writing. And then I said, okay, I'm going to finish this by Labor Day, because that was Memorial Weekend, and I finished it a week before Labor Day.
Wow.
And
Goals,
I finished it, I wrote it, and I did it all on the touchscreen keyboard of my iPad.
Oh, that's
Dude, I could
a
write.
crappy
In
way
Pages.
to write.
Oh, yeah, it was. I went back to edit, and wow, does autocorrect do a lot. So, yeah. That was my first draft. I sent it to Jason King, Dave Butler, and Michael Brent Collins. Jason King said, hey, this is pretty cool. I like this. Michael Brent came back and said, hey, I'm giving you some constructive criticism. These creatures in this section of the book, I didn't know if I was supposed to be laughing or if I was supposed to be terrified. So if I was supposed to be terrified, you need to fix it. If I was supposed to be laughing, it may need some work too. And then Dave Butler gave me some great advice as well. So I went back and did another edit, fixed a lot of things, and the story just continued to progress from there.
So are you a discovery writer then?
I am. Yeah. And we were talking previously with Chris Husberg, and that's kind of how I do it. I can't outline, no matter how hard I try. I know where I want to go. I know what kind of about the characters, and then I just go.
So do you know anything about the world outline though? Like, because
Well, see, the nice thing is I just used our world, so I didn't have to do any world building really. And the villain, the big villain, is a dragon.
Because that happens in this world.
The
all
evil
time.
corporation is trying. They were digging for oil. There's an oil shortage. Fossil fuels are gone, and they uncover a dragon. And with the dragon coming back, other things start happening. With the dragon's presence, there's magic, and he's able to manipulate and change things. So, and yeah, I don't know.
And
how
a
much,
yeah?
I don't know how much
And a
more I should
yeah?
give away.
Well, it's your book.
I know.
did you hear that, viewers? That was the equivalent of a ... at the end of a text message. So go pre-order.
He made a reference to doing a lot of prep work when he beat me at Choose Your Own Apocalypse.
You were on that. He brags about that.
I came in with nothing. Julie came in with nothing. He came in with a 2-inch binder of material for comedy improv. He came in with a 2-inch binder of prepared material for comedy improv.
I was the elementals. I had 286 pages of various different types of elementals, their powers, and what they could and couldn't do to the world. Yeah.
And what you don't know, listeners, is that's the book he's releasing.
No.
Now, was this printed off material, or is this actually written? Like
it was printed off. Yeah.
Double space, margin, like highlight. Are we talking like?
No, there was no double spacing.
He might have been a little over prepped.
Yeah, I was.
It
was my first one. It was my first one, and I was just like, all right, I sort of know how to do this. I'm gonna go in. I like being prepared. If anyone asks any random questions, I'm going to be able to answer those questions. I didn't use any of it, really, because it was all improv and I didn't need to.
When is the next one of those? I want to go.
There's actually one at Solid Gaming Con and Comic Con.
Yeah.
So, listeners, if you're in Utah on when's Gaming Con?
So Gaming Con's in June.
June.
July.
Or July. So July and then
Usually
September.
close together.
Yeah, July. And then
We have
September.
2 coming up. We have FireCon and
Yeah,
Date-
FireCon's
Yeah.
in June. Yeah.
yeah, and so everybody asks us. One's in June and one's in July, and I'm just going to go to whichever
Yeah.
one my schedule tells
I'll
me
just show
when
up.
it
Exactly.
comes
Yeah.
up.
No, those are really fun. You have to think on your feet. It's a lot like you do, and you don't know. I mean, I've gone to those before, completely prepared like I was, and Holly beat the crap out of me because she got up and sang a song, which, yeah.
Oh, come on. You can't just leave it at that. You almost have to tell them.
Well, no, she's just really good at taking, so the first time I lost, she I can't even remember what it was, but she took a modern day song and twisted it around to her faction. And it
Okay,
worked
can I
perfectly.
tell it?
And then,
Because I love this. He bragged. Can I tell it? Is that
Sure.
okay?
go on.
Where she was being hunted down by like a horde of zombies, and so she started doing the Thriller dance, and all the zombies.
No,
joined
that's Nivian. That's the Killer Breakfast. That's different.
Oh,
Sorry, that's still cool though.
I love that story though.
No, but okay.
Any
So
excuse to
example,
tell
when we were at LTUE, she was Dolores Umbridge, and she created the Umbridge rap, which was just
Whoa.
awesome.
Whoa.
Yes.
What?
Yeah. So how can you win against that?
You can't.
Yeah. So and Holly is the only I've lost twice, and Holly's been the person I've lost to every time. Yeah.
She is your Everest.
Yes. So if I can win against her, yeah, that would be awesome. But that was a tangent.
Yeah, no, that was a tangent. So I'm taking it that since Jason was one of your pre-readers, that's how you ended up with Immortal Works? Because
Yeah.
they didn't
So
even exist back then, did they?
no, they didn't exist at that point, and I had finished the book. I had done a few edits, and then I started doing agent queries. Dave Butler actually helped me how to do that because I literally had no clue. It's definitely not something they show you or teach you. So I talked with him at length and started doing that. I did get a few rejections. Yeah, those hurt. And then Jason actually emailed me, said, "Hey, as you know, I started Immortal Works. I'd really like your book." And I'm like, "Well, I've kind of done." He's like, I'll take the first draft as it is. I'll take it. I'm like, I've made a lot more edits since then. It's better. He's like, even better. I'll take it. And so I'm like, okay. So I submitted it to him, and then didn't hear anything for about a month and a half.
The silence that
So I'm
comes.
like, okay, well, maybe he didn't want it. And then moved on. And then he's like, oh, we're doing it. Here's your contract. I'm like, sweet. Looked over the contract, talked to a few other people about it, and it was actually a pretty solid contract for a first book. And so I was excited. Signed it and sent it in, and the rest is history, I guess, at this point.
Well, the rest is like 2 weeks down the road when it actually comes out.
Future history.
Well, it is. We'll be out in 2 weeks, yeah. But wow, the process of going from signing to when the book comes out, it is grueling.
That's what I was going to ask next.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So, the first time I got the edits back from the editor,
I remember a little something about this.
Man, I literally, I went through. I was reading it. I'm like, what the heck? This person has no clue what my story is. They don't know who I am. They're tearing this thing apart. It was like 2 days of me complaining and whining, and
I remember those days.
You messaged me on Facebook at least once.
Yeah, I did. Because I'm like, they're ruining my story. Yeah, I did message Bob. He talked me down from the top. And then I took a step back, and then realized they weren't ruining my story, and I started looking at it from a different perspective. Just because doing the show, I've heard all the horror stories of different editors and how they've done. Talking with John Brown, I know how he butted heads with his editor, and it didn't go out very well, and the book that came out was vastly different from what he wanted. So some part of me was like, oh, they're doing that to me? No. Because originally Jason was supposed to be the editor on it, and then he gave me over to Sarah Hamlin. I had no clue who this person was, never met her, and now she's destroying my masterpiece. And no, she made it better. She did. After I stepped back and we talked a little bit, tried to see where she was going and how I understood things were going, we found a middle ground, and it really went smoothly after that. But those first couple days,
Well, and for the readers out there, or for the listeners out there who might be wanting to get into this, the problems you talked to me about, I don't know about the other ones, were non-issues. And that was one of the things I told you is this is very likely a non-issue.
Yeah.
Just tell her your POV. There's a real good chance she'll just say, oh, okay, and just drop it entirely.
No, and that's what it was. It literally is like, okay, so I have a creature that shows up in the middle of the book, and she changed it to an alligator, a mutated alligator, because the creature was in the sewer. And so, like, early in the story, my Rick, the character, was he's like, thinking of an old movie he had watched of, a mutant alligator that, the alligator had been flushed down the toilet, was then living in the sewer and eating people.
Sounds like a good MST3K movie.
Yeah. So somewhere in her mind, she just assumed that was a foreshadowing of what the creature was. And so she completely changed that creature to an alligator. But alligators don't have long necks, and they don't have tongues that come out of their mouths that taste the air, because that's how they smell, and they definitely don't cling from ceilings, because I'm talking about how this thing is moving around the sewers much like an alien would, from the alien movies where it's bouncing around. And
Now I'm just thinking about an alligator on the ceiling.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the biggest thing. I'm like, oh! So I emailed her and said, hey, this wasn't an alligator. This was a lizard, and I described it this way, and alligators don't do this, that. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, this is how I made the connection. Maybe we need to tweak it a little bit.
Yeah. A lot of times you'll find out that that there is a problem, but it's not the problem the editor thought the problem was.
And so I'm like, okay. So we fixed it. Then she went through the second edit. She's like, oh yeah, I can see it now. But yeah,
I'll have conversations with my editor where he'll be like, well, you need to cut this and this and this and this scene as we're going through. And I'll know that he hasn't gotten to the payoff of those yet.
Yeah.
And so we'll get to the end. I'll be like, well, this pays off later. And I'll send the thing back and say, okay, did you see how that paid off and how that worked? He goes, yeah. No, I see the problem now. The problem is just that you're, a terrible writer. It's if you just went back and, didn't suck. This would probably all work,
Yeah.
And then we all come to a happy conclusion.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and the nice thing is, because of your advice, I, every time that I would run into something, then I'm like, wait a minute. We'd have a conversation, and then I'm like, because there'd be like a note. This doesn't make sense because of da-da-da. And I'm like, well, it's because in this chapter, da-da-da-da-da. It's like, oh, okay, never mind.
Right.
Yeah, stuff like that. Because, when she was writing the note, she hadn't read through that later part.
Well, half the time, knowing why they tried to make the edit is the most important, because it just means that you didn't explain something well enough.
Yeah.
Something's off.
Yeah, and if you just put like a second reference in between where you set it up and where you paid it off, then it would have been fine, because they would have remembered. They'd just forgotten,
Yeah, and a lot of the time that's what it was. It would be, I'd read it after that. I'd read it and I'm like, okay, I'd reread it. I see where I missed something. And then I'd add something more descriptive, or I'd change the scene around a little bit. And then I'd send it to her and say, okay, this is how I rewrote it. Does this work? She's like, oh, yeah, much better. And that would get inserted in.
I guess that makes perfect sense. I mean, you guys, you see the entire world that you're creating, but the viewer can only see it through this little tiny window of the words.
As they're going along.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, like, to you it makes perfect sense, but to everybody else, it's an alligator instead of a lizard that can run on the ceiling.
But it doesn't sound that way now.
Well, it's amazing how perception will screw things up,
Oh, yeah.
And you just... I had a door on the side of a wall that was a false door in this thing, and it was just screwing everybody up. I'm like, I just need to actually put the door blocking them,
Yeah.
You know, because everybody thinks the door is blocking them. And I don't know even why I had it on the side of the wall. I think just because Tomb of Horrors had a similar trapdoor on the side of the wall back when I was a kid, and that's just how I envisioned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just moved it. And I still, to the very end of that, editing that book, I had to remind myself every time I got there that it was the way that everybody saw it and not the way it still was in my mind whenever I get to think, because I'd go to start correcting it and be like, no, I changed that. Because it's just still stuck in my brain that way, just the way that I initially conceived it. Yeah. So, is there going to be a sequel? Is this a series? What is the...
So, I wrote it as a standalone. I did end it, though, that I could do another one. Because just, again, from talking to other authors, they always write a standalone because a publisher is more willing to pick it up.
Right.
But, leave it open so that they, if they decide they want more, they can. So I definitely did that. I left it with it was a complete story, but at the same time, I could pick it up later if I wanted to write a sequel. Which means... So
that's the end with a question mark.
Well, not really with a question mark. It does have a finality. It does have an end to it. And I could just leave it at that.
Right.
But it definitely leaves it open that if I decided to write another one, that I could easily because of something that I won't say on air.
Okay.
Well, it's like if you read the first Wheel of Time novel, you think at the end that he's defeated the Dark One.
Yeah.
And it's very clear in future novels he hadn't, but he made it a very tightly self-contained novel in the way that it appeared. And it's not until you really thought about it afterwards that you start seeing some loose ends that was obvious that he had planned a series all along. But at the end, it looks like he's won. And he's defeated the Dark One, and it's all over. And he did that so that the publisher would take it up without reservation and sell it without reservation.
Got it.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I've done. So you can definitely there are some small hints here and there, and then when you get to the end, there is, okay.
You don't have to tell us what it is.
Fine.
Yeah.
But if there's something there that...
Oh, there is. It's just like
there,
that. Yeah. It could end or it could not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Death by Cliche, I wrapped everything up at the very end, but then I just said at the end, well, they meet every week, so that you know that you could just have as many books as you wanted.
The readers could create whatever they wanted in their minds, or down the line, if
but
possibly,
even if nothing else, the readers could just continue on from there with their imagination.
So,
that's nice.
I think the listeners are going to want to hear a little bit of this book.
All right, so I get to read this.
Yeah.
Yay!
In the author's voice.
Uh-oh.
I already had to do a flash fiction. Hopefully I do this well. All right. After centuries of slumber, the creature had awakened to the cravings of death and ash. For hundreds of years, it had slept deep beneath the surface of the earth, undisturbed until the incessant noise of the Union Forest drills that had burrowed down into its home had rudely awoken it. Instead of vast deposits of black gold as expected, the drilling team had stumbled upon something locked away, thought to be lost to the world. This unexpected discovery had come with a price because of an ancient and sinister evil that had guarded it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Shadows Above the Flames.
Yep.
It's Daniel Swenson?
Yep.
Is that how you're credited? Okay. And it's on sale on June 6th, and you need to be buying copies as often as possible. Just buy 4 or 5 or 6. How many times do you want to read the book? You're going to want to read the book 5 times. Buy 5 copies.
And there's nothing like a brand new crisp book every time you read it.
Well,
right, absolutely.
No, the cover
new
is
book
stunning.
smell. Yeah, it's a Brian Hales cover.
Brian
right?
Hales did it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Jason's like, okay, kind of send us a couple rough sketches of what you think.
Brian doesn't do that.
And I drew a couple, didn't work. Then I literally took...
You mean he said to you?
Yeah, to me. And then I literally looked around, found some pictures, and then edited, cut and pasted it together. Collaged it, yeah. And sent it to Jason. I'm like, this is sort of another one that would look really cool. He's like, I actually like that. So they sent that to Brian. He's like, yeah, I can work with that, but it doesn't work. I'm like, okay. Well, let's see what you got. And then he sent back what he did, and I'm like, couldn't talk for 15 minutes.
Yeah, something that leaving it up to an artist can just...
Yeah, and it was better than I had ever imagined. They actually ended up doing a wraparound cover, which was just fantastic. and the dragon and how everything looks. Oh wow! It's like literally how I pictured it.
Brian's awesome. He's done a lot of
Yeah.
art for me. All right. And I think that's it. I think that's a full show. We're at our time, aren't we?
Almost out of time.
That is
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again later.
I am Groot.
See yous.